Ever pondered what it really means to engage in spiritual combat with God? And how would it feel to stand face to face with the Creator, if that were possible? We'll look at one of the most fascinating stories in the Bible today, Jacob's struggle with God. This narrative is more than just an account of a physical conflict. It also serves as a potent allegory for religion, encounters with the supernatural, and the potential for spiritual development that arise from such encounters. Among the most nuanced and captivating characters in the Old Testament is Jacob. He strikes out right away as a character torn between desires and tensions. The first time we see Jacob in the book of Genesis, he is still in the womb of his mother Rebekah and is already having trouble with his twin brother Esau. This rivalry's foreshadowing not only molds Jacob's personality, but also his life's course, which is marked by difficulties, dishonesty, and an unwavering quest for favors and fame. Jacob's life was characterized by his persistent pursuit of favors and validation from his father Isaac, his sibling Esau, and ultimately from God. His brother was tricked into trading his birthright for a bowl of stew at the start of this mission. Later, Jacob tricked his blind and elderly father to obtain the blessing Isaac meant for Esau, the firstborn, with the assistance of his mother Rebekah. He had to go to his uncle Laban's house in order to avoid Esau's wrath as a result of his conduct. Jacob encountered fresh difficulties at Laban's home in Padan Aram, which put his forbearance and moral fiber to the test. Clever Laban misled Jacob into thinking he was getting married to his daughter Rachel, but on the wedding day, he gave him Leah, the older daughter. After 7 more years of labor, Jacob was able to wed Rachel, the woman he had loved. Jacob continued to battle with identity and purpose during these years, even as he grew wealthy and had children. God gave Jacob the command to go back to his father's country as the years went by. This directive was a call to face his history, take responsibility for his deeds, and seek a new identity before God, more than simply making a bodily return. However, it would not be simple to return. Jacob was aware that returning would force him to confront Esau, the brother he had twice tricked. He was overcome with terror of a potentially violent encounter with Esau, which caused him to consider his previous transgressions and fear the consequences. Fearful and apprehensive, Jacob found himself alone himself the night before his meeting with Esau. That's when he had an encounter that would forever alter his course in life. Jacob spent the entire night wrestling with an unidentified opponent at the Jabbok River crossing. According to how the Bible portrays him, this guy was in fact a manifestation of God, who is frequently thought to be either God or an angelic representation of God. This struggle, which symbolized Jacob's internal conflict with his own identity, his past, and his connection with God, was not just physical, but also spiritual and emotional. Jacob's refusal to quit up in the face of injury is what makes this struggle so important. He did not give up, clinging to the man and requesting a blessing before releasing him. This illustrates Jacob's resolve to turn to God directly for blessing and approbation, rather than depending on his own resourcefulness or strength. Jacob's determination to wrestle until dawn demonstrates his evolution from a guy who constantly looked to trick others to obtain what he desired to someone who recognizes the need of asking God directly for grace and favor. Jacob's hip was dislocated by the opponent's touch during the struggle, yet he persisted. The man blessed Jacob and gave him the new name, Israel, which means one who wrestles with God, in appreciation for his tenacity. This new name represented the metamorphosis of Jacob. He was no longer merely the usurper and liar. Instead, he was now a man who had fought God and triumphed by perseverance and faith rather than brute force. This name change represented more than just a sign. It was an identity shift that marked a fresh start in Jacob's life. Jacob's narrative and his struggle with God impart to us a number of profound insights that we can use to both our everyday lives and our spiritual lives. It first demonstrates to us the value of holding fast to one's beliefs. Even after suffering injuries, Jacob persisted, and his perseverance earned him a blessing and a new identity. We frequently encounter seemingly insurmountable obstacles and problems in our lives. But it is in these trying times that we must persevere and put our faith in God to lead us. Jacob's story also serves as a reminder that our interactions with God are not always simple or comfortable. Sometimes they provide us with intense challenges, highlighting our flaws and making us face uncomfortable realities about who we are. Before Jacob could change, he had to face his own deception, fear, and uncertainty. In the same way, God can mold us and get us ready for what He has in store for us through the challenges we face, both internal and external. Jacob's struggle also makes clear that God cherishes honesty in our relationship with Him, which is another crucial aspect. Jacob battled for blessings rather than trying to hide them, and God rewarded his persistence. It is frequently this kind of faith, one that isn't scared to wrestle with issues and ask questions, that brings us closer to God. It is essential to be open and sincere with God about our wants, worries, and desires in our relationship, believing that He will listen and act accordingly. Jacob gave the location the name Peniel, which means the face of God, after the battle, stating, "I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." In addition to the physical scar on Jacob's hip, which caused him to limp, this incident made an enduring spiritual impression on him. After meeting God, Jacob had undergone a transformation and was no longer the same person. In addition to serving as a reminder of his hardship, Jacob's limp served as a symbol of his new identity as Israel, the person who struggled with God and triumphed. When Jacob finally encountered Esau the following day, he was braced for the worst. But Esau gave him an embrace and shed some tears, proving that peace might be restored. Although the years of suffering and the fallout from Jacob's previous deeds are still there, this joyful ending demonstrates how personal change can result in the restoration of external relationships. The account of Jacob and Esau demonstrates the strength of redemption and forgiveness by demonstrating that even in the face of error, God is able to restore what was lost. Jacob's conversion to Israel serves as a reminder that in spite of our transgressions and shortcomings, God is still able to work with us, transform us, and bestow blessings upon us. That is, if we have the strength to persevere and give ourselves over to Him completely. After a life of deception, Jacob became the father of God's chosen people, the 12 tribes of Israel. His example shows us that what matters is how we let God operate in us and change us into the people He has called us to be, not how we start out. Jacob's fight with God also prompts us to consider our own hardships. Everybody has internal conflicts from time to time, whether they are related to their anxieties, insecurities, or even their perception of God. Even while it might seem impossible to get past these obstacles, we must persevere, just like Jacob did. And just as God showed Himself to Jacob, He also shows Himself to us throughout our darkest hours, giving us a fresh identity and viewpoint. The lesson from Jacob's story is that a life of faith is a journey filled with both internal and external challenges. Even if they are unpleasant, these challenges are chances for you to develop, adapt, and get closer to God. With all of his difficulties, setbacks, and triumphs, Jacob demonstrates to us that genuine spiritual leadership demands more than charm or talent. Rather, it demands a heart that is totally devoted to God and prepared to follow His ways at any cost. Know that God is by your side, prepared to change your life if you were able to relate to this narrative and feel that you are going through a spiritual battle as well. Persist in your battle, and like Jacob, you will be blessed and see the face of God. Like Jacob, we can all come out of our trials changed and equipped to occupy the position that God has for us. I encourage you to share this video with others and subscribe to the channel if you found this information to be meaningful. By working together, we may encourage more people to follow their faith and study biblical principles. God bless and protect you.